Hello, hello, happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with you on this Sunday morning as we gather together to celebrate the magnificence and significance of the presence and power of God operating in, through, and as us. Well, let us begin, as we always do, with prayer, and I want to ground us in a reading today from the Daily Word. The word today is beautiful, and the affirmation, my open heart discovers beauty all around me. I see beauty in soaring mountains and rolling seas, in majestic forests and kaleidoscopic fields of wild flowers. I hear beauty in music, bird songs, and the laughter and conversations of people in fellowship. Searching beyond my senses, I discover a greater depth of beauty. The mundane items and landmarks I may take for granted take on a deeper beauty when my memories fill them with meaning. My dear ones become even more beautiful to me when I pause to remember our fondest experiences and the love that binds us. I move through each day with my mind and heart open. Now, even the most ordinary items, places, and circumstances become more and more precious and beautiful to me. My open heart discovers beauty all around me. And so from this place of awareness, I invite you to close your eyes and take a conscious breath in and a conscious breath out. We take an intentional breath in and an intentional breath out. We take a centering breath in and a centering breath out. We are here now. We are here now. We are here now. The past is gone. The future is yet to come. And we are here now. God is here now. God is here now. God is here now. There is only one mind, only one power, only one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one life. There is one divine substance that we live, move, and have our being in. It is our life now. That life, that divine substance, it is perfect, whole, and complete. And it is your life now. It is my life now. It is all life now. Back of, behind, and underneath every physical expression, every manifestation is God, the one, God the all, God the good, abundance itself. And we put the focus of our attention on that right now. We recognize that to be the truth of life. We recognize that to be the fabric of life. We recognize that to be the foundation of life. We recognize that to be the infinite fountain of supply from which all comes, and it never exhausts itself. We remember and know that there is no spot where God is not. We remember and know that God neither comes nor goes. It is always right here, right now. It is always right there where you are seated, where you happen to be, where you are standing, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. And even if you're in another galaxy, God is there right now. And as we recognize the nowness of God, as we recognize the omnipresence of God, we recognize that we are here now. Because we are one with God and one of God. We live, move, and have our being in it. And it lives, moves, and has its expression in, through, and as us. We are individualized expressions of God the good. We are undivided, particularized expressions of abundance itself. We accept ourselves as prosperity today. We accept ourselves as whole today. We accept ourselves as fearless today. We accept ourselves as worthy today. We accept ourselves as sinless today. We accept ourselves as God sees us. For this is the very truth of our life. And so we are grateful and thankful for community. We are grateful and thankful for this powerful God idea that is Celebration Spiritual Center, that is here to support us in remembering who and what we are, and is here to support us in integrating that reality into our lives and making it the truth of our lives as we live it out through our individualized expressions. We are grateful and thankful for this community that is miracle-minded and miracle-focused. We are grateful for this spiritual community that is focused on healing of our body, healing of our mind, healing of our relationships, healing of our relationship with ourselves, healing of our view of ourselves. We are so grateful and thankful for this spiritual community that is here to be a light on the earth, leading us and guiding us to the presence and power of God that dwells within us. So for this truth and so many more, with gratitude and thanksgiving, I now release this prayer. I release it back into the law, which is always in operation, because I understand that the law responds to us. I understand that the law becomes based on the feeling tone and the words that we have spoken. I understand that the law never fails. I understand that the law is always here, therefore always on time. I understand how the law works. So I release this prayer to the law with confidence, with absolute expectation and joy. And together we lift up our voices and we say, Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
So it must be. Yes, yes. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you. It is so wonderful to start on a new month. This is the first Sunday in July. It happens to be my birthday month, so of course it's my favorite month. There's just so many wonderful things. Of course, we're moving forward with the summer season. I do want to send out love, and we're holding so many people in prayer because, of course, many of you are aware of Hurricane Beryl, which moved through the Caribbean. We have many people in our community who are from the Caribbean. We're so grateful and thankful those that we have been in touch with that were, for instance, on the island of Jamaica. Everyone is safe and sound. We have also been checking in with our sister churches, those in UFBL and ministers there, to know that everyone is safe and sound, and members in our community that have other family members that are in Grenada and other islands. We're happy to know that for the most part, everyone is safe and well. We continue to hold everyone in our hearts. We are personally looking to do some things and support those efforts that are happening, and we encourage you to do the same as you are led to do. We also want to remind you, as we have a heat advisory here in New York, please pay attention to those advisories. Please do what is necessary to stay safe and to stay cool. All of this is related to climate change, yes. Right? All of this is related to the climate crisis. And so we have to move a little differently and respond a little differently than we normally would. The summers ain't like the summers when we were kids, right? So please be mindful of those things. And again, please continue to keep everyone in your hearts and minds and in your prayers. And as you're led to do so, provide support. If you are a first-time guest, hello, welcome. It's so very good to have you here in the stream. I'm excited that you're here because I know that you're going to receive something powerful. I know that something will be done or said that will actually transform your life, that will change your thinking and thus change your life. We are confident and know that something will be said or done that will support you in thriving and living an empowered life. And so we're grateful that you're here. What you see on your screen is how you access your digital connection card. Just text the word welcome to that phone number, 347-472-1078, and you'll receive a reply with a link that takes you to the digital connection card. Please just fill out the information. We just need your email address and your name. Submit that information. You'll receive a follow-up text that says you're all set, and indeed at that point you are. You'll be added to our mailing list. You'll receive all the correspondence that we send out throughout the week, and stay abreast of what's happening here at CSC. Again, we can't say it enough. We're happy that you're here. We're excited that you're here because we know that there are no mistakes and there are no coincidences in that sense, but that something led you here, which means that there's something powerful here for you to receive. You can also feel free to let us know in the comments where you're connecting in from. You might find that there are other people that are connecting in from the same city, state, or country that you happen to be connecting in from right here and right now. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to move into our news and updates. Many of these things are echoed in our weekly email that goes out on Fridays, and then we can move forward with the new meditation experience for July, and of course, tap into the next chapter as we continue to study It's Up to You by Ernest Holmes. We are in Truth Sunday Masterclass mode this summer, and we are studying the text, It's Up to You. If you have not already gotten the book, now is a wonderful time to do it. You can get the digital version immediately, or you can order the print version as you so desire. But we encourage you to have the book. It should be a part of your library, but also so that you can follow along with us and so that you can complete the homework assignments as we give them each week. Every third Sunday is God Talk Sunday. What is the God Talk? The God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions. We recognize that in most spiritual settings around the world, you're not able to ask questions. Things are just said by the leaders, the ministers, the pastors, imams, rabbis, etc., and you just have to take their word for it. And so we recognize that as you have come to this spiritual path, as you are on this metaphysical path, as you are choosing to believe and practice the reality that the power of your thought impacts your life, you're going to have questions because there's lots that you're going to have to unlearn. Unfortunately, there's lots of misinformation that you have unknowingly accepted in your life that we now need to get rid of. And so the best way to do that is to ask questions. Pastor Yolanda and I were clear before the doors of Celebration Spiritual Center were ever opened that we needed to have a forum like this, and we're grateful that we've continued to do this over the past 11 years. Now, in order to ask your questions, you have to be there. And so the Zoom link and password is shared in our weekly email that goes out on Friday. So get on the mailing list so that you can get this information, and then put this in your calendar and make sure that you join us on the third Sunday following service at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the God Talk. It is incredibly enriching. It is incredibly inspiring. It's incredibly enlightening because we all leave that space differently than when we walked in as we answer questions and as we expand our awareness. It's a wonderful thing. So please make it your business to be there on the third Sunday. We'll be there, and we look forward to seeing you. Every fourth Sunday is Healing Sunday. We have a specific spiritual treatment that we share on Healing Sunday. And so we invite you, if you are in need of healing, any type of healing, physical or emotional, financial, whatever it may be, come. You want to be here on the fourth Sunday for that Healing Sunday prayer treatment. And we, of course, also invite you to invite those that are in need of any sort of healing. It may just come up as you're hearing about this now, and you may have a conversation with someone in the coming weeks. And as you are led to do, invite them to tap into the stream. The wonderful thing about it is they can connect right from where they are, wherever they are, phone, tablet, computer, television, etc. So it doesn't take much. They don't have to get out of bed or get dressed and come to some church, some strange church. All they have to do is tap in and step into the healing waters, the healing consciousness that we are creating and co-creating here at CSC. As I have said over the past few weeks, prayers are being answered here at CSC. Prayers of physical healing. We are receiving so many wonderful messages, and we'll continue to share those messages on the fourth Sunday, as it is clear that prayer is easy, prayer works, prayer is our superpower, but it only works when we work it. If you have a prayer request, you can send that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. We are always knowing the truth for everyone in our community. We are always speaking the truth and holding the highest and best for you. But there may be something specific that you would like prayer about or around, and so you can send that prayer request in to the email address you see on your screen. You can also submit that on behalf of someone else, someone you know or love who may be moving through some challenge, and you want us to support you as you support them in prayer, by all means. And of course, as your prayer is answered, as you are experiencing miracles and answered prayer, by all means, send us an email to that same address and let us know how prayer is working in your life. Every Wednesday morning, we gather together for prayer at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Momentum Prayer Call. This is your opportunity to continue to stand in the consciousness and to be definite with the infinite. It's your opportunity in the middle of the week. Sunday, you may leave here on a high, and after Monday and Tuesday, you may have forgotten some of the things that you received on Sunday. And so Wednesday morning is a wonderful reminder to speak the truth, to align with the truth, and to be intentional about your life. Now, if you're unable to make the call live, the prayer is recorded, and so you can use that playback number at any time, 24/7. The most recent prayer is always available and will play. Just call the number, enter the access code, wait, and receive and tap into the vibration of prayer. We are so grateful that this continues to be a resource that is impactful in our community, and we will continue to hold the highest watch because we recognize the power of prayer and how it has continued to support and undergird the prosperity of Celebration Spiritual Center. Our series of the month for July is the Pure Imagination series. This takes us back to May 2017. If you are familiar with or want to get familiar with the work and teaching of Neville Goddard, this series is inspired by and based on the power of imagination and the ways in which Neville Goddard teaches imagination, imagination being God in you. And so I think this is a powerful series that will support you as we're studying It's Up to You this month. It's also just a wonderful series to listen to throughout the week as you're and throughout the month as you want to keep your consciousness focused on what it is that you actually desire, as you can put your attention on something like this versus distracting thoughts, limiting thoughts, lack thoughts. So we encourage you to tap into that. It's available on the homepage of our YouTube channel. This quote came to mind this week. And every time I think about this, every time I read it, I think about the first time I heard it, and it shook me to my core. Tell me, does the Lord of a great empire go out begging for rice? This is, of course, the words of Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, verse 26. Well, we need to stop begging God, because many of us are doing that. You're lords of a great empire, but you're going out begging for rice. And just as you would never expect a queen or a king to beg, why would you, as a queen or the king of your life, beg? And so we must learn to pray the easy way. And that's what the Affirmative Prayer Mastermind is all about. It's supporting you in adopting a simple, easy to follow, easy to use method for prayer that will take you out of begging, that will take you out of bartering and making deals with God, that'll take you out of begging and beseeching rather, but get you to the place of knowing the truth and praying from the realm of the answer. The Affirmative Prayer Mastermind registration is open. You can use the QR code you see here on your screen, or you can go to celebrationsc.org/register. We start on August 8th. It's a 4-week class, and it only costs $97. If you have any questions, of course, you can always email us with your questions. I am excited about this because this is now the 3rd round of this class for this year. So that means that after this round, you only have one more opportunity to tap into this vibration. But what's been powerful is the ways in which we've been building momentum from round 1 to round 2, and the ways in which miracles and answered prayers are showing up in just a short amount of time. If you're ready to stop begging for rice, you want to be in the Affirmative Prayer Mastermind. Registration is open. You can register today. And that concludes our news and updates for this Sunday, which means we get to go within as we are led in the meditation experience with Pastor Yolanda.
Yes. It is time for the meditation experience, to take our ideas about God and internalize them, live from them, breathe them, know that they are true for ourselves. Because as I like to say, you can read all of the sacred text you want, and that is important. But it is only through your direct experience of the God within you for yourself that you know the things you read and study are real and true. And so we take time every Sunday to go within and to remember the truth for ourselves. I have a question for you. Is your heart beating? Are you breathing? And you might say, well, PY, of course my heart is beating and of course I'm breathing. But what I want us to focus on this month is, how is your heart beating? A Course in Miracles says something so beautiful, that my heart is beating in the peace of God. You see, sometimes our nervous system gets deregulated or dysregulated. And so our heart is beating, and we're thinking it's beating in stress, and we're thinking it's beating in worry and doubt and fear. But today we get to affirm and know that my heart is beating in the peace of God, that I am surrounded by the love of God, that my breath is breathing, that my heart is beating, and all of this is happening in the peace of God. Take that in for a moment. Many times we think we have to move to and fro, or we become so focused on what's happening out there that it triggers our nervous system to go into anxiety and fear and doubt and worry. But as we affirm today and this month, my heart is beating in the peace of God. This affirmative truth comes from lesson 257. And it's important that we remember that our heart is beating in the peace of God. Of course, says, surrounding me is all of the life that God created with its love. All of the life that God created. All of the life that is teeming in the ocean, that is moving through the air and through the atmosphere. All of the life is beating in the love of God. It calls to me in every heartbeat and in every breath, in every action and in every thought. Peace fills my heart and floods my body. Let us focus today on allowing our heart to beat in the peace of God, to allow it to flood our system. There's so much out there that can dysregulate if we focus on it. But we bring our focus inward to the truth. We slow everything down, and we remember that our heart is beating in the peace of God. So from this place of knowing, from this place of remembering if we've forgotten, from this place of allowing our heart to beat in a loving environment, let us prepare for meditation. Go ahead and look around the room. Notice where you are. And even as you look around the room, your heart continues to beat, and it continues to beat in the peace of God. From this place of safety, security, and knowing, plant the palms on the tops of the thighs and allow your eyelids to close. As we let go of the external, as we go within, allow your breath to be your guide and allow your heart to beat in the peace of God. Let's take a few rounds of breath just to notice right where we are that the heart is beating, the breath is flowing, and that peace is here now. And whether our breath appears to be deep or appears to be shallow, it matters not, for the breath is moving and the heart is beating. We make no judgment. We just allow the love of God to beat our heart. Allow the love of God to be the breath that is our breath. Beautiful, everyone. Now let's take conscious control of the breath. Just as we can control our thoughts, we can control our breath. Let's send the focus of our attention and our breath deep into the low belly. So drop that breath and that focus of attention nice and low. And as we prepare to breathe together, let us also prepare to allow our hearts to beat together in the peace of God. From this place of knowing and focus, we're going to breathe together, inhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, and then relaxing in this peaceful environment for 4. Together, breathing in Hold for 4. And open the mouth, relax the jaw, release whatever is inhibiting your peace for 4. And rest as you return to the peace of your beating heart. Together, inhale through the nostrils, dropping the breath nice and deep. And hold for 4. Open the mouth, relax, and release the breath. And settle into the peace. In through the low belly, now up through the rib cage, expanding the sides of the body, making more room for breath. And hold for 4. Relax the jaw and release the breath. Sigh it out. And settle into the peace. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the sides, and now the front and the back of the body, sending breath where it is needed, slowing everything down, feeling your beating heart, and holding and sigh it out. And relax. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, now allowing the breath to rise to the heart center, that beating heart that is pulsating peace throughout your nervous system. Hold it there. And without collapsing the body, keeping the heart open, exhale. And experience the peace. One more time, in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, and allowing the breath to rise and connect to that beating heart. Across the front of the body and the back of the body. Hold there. And release. Sigh it out. And relax. Let's practice this deep flow of breath. Let's slow it down more to experience how it feels to slow down the beating heart, and that it is still allowing peace to move through your nervous system. Inhaling in through the nose for a count of 6, holding and slowing it down on the exhale through the nostrils for a count of 6. Together, inhale. Hold. And releasing it through the nostrils, nice and easy. And rest. Let's practice a few rounds of this deep breath, this connected breath, this intentional breath, as it connects every aspect of our breath to our heart, and the peace floods our nervous system. In and out through the nostrils for a few rounds. Beautiful everyone. Nothing can disturb our peace because it is connected to our beating heart. The love that God is surrounds us, fills us with peace. And so we are open and receptive to more peace now as we send the focus of our attention and more relaxation throughout our body. Allow your focus to be on the feet. Maybe you inhale and exhale, raising the heels or wiggling the toes, whatever feels good. And as you do so, you notice there might be some tension there. In non-judgment and in complete love and support, stop the movement, relax the feet. As we relax the feet, they connect to the earth beneath us, to the divine feminine that anchors us. And we let that energy of love and peace flow up through the soles of the feet, across the ankles. Relax the ankles. Unobstructed, that energy wants to move. It wants to feel and flood your body with peace. As it flows across the shins and the calves, relax the shins and the calves. The energy flows across the knees. In our flexibility, we open to more peace. Relax the knees. Energy flows across the thighs and the glutes and the hamstrings. These large muscles sometimes get really constricted as we are seated and supported. Relax the thighs, the glutes, and the hamstrings. And with that energy gathered at the base of the spine, we continue to give it permission to rise. As we inhale, the energy moves in and up. And we exhale and allow the energy to move in and up. And we exhale and allow. Our heart continues to beat and the peace continues to move as we inhale, exhale, and allow. Let that energy flow in and up, and up, and up, giving it permission to move in and up, and up, and out the crown of our head. We become an open channel for peace to flood our body, to connect us to each other, to send the beacon of love throughout the galaxy. And now give yourself permission to receive it as it flows back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, and rest nice and gently on the shoulders, giving them permission to relax. It flows down the arms and out the fingertips. My heart is beating in the peace of God. Your heart is beating in the peace of God. Let that rhythmic, eternally moving peace fill you now. Scan your body, and if there is any place where there is still tension, it's okay. We send love and peace and light there in non-judgment. I will monitor the time. You just take the inward journey. And if the mind wanders, it's okay. We are compassionate and kind to our wandering mind. And we use our affirmative thought to bring us back. My heart is beating in the peace of God. Your heart is beating in the peace of God. Our heart is collectively beating in the peace of God now. With our eyelids still closed, let us hear these words from Lesson 267. My heart beats and brings me peace. Each breath infuses me with strength. I am the loving messenger of God, and held forever quiet and at peace within its loving arms. Each heartbeat calls on the name of God, and I am assured that I am at home in God. My heart beats in the peace of God. It does not or is not impacted by the external environment. It continues to beat and consistently and eternally is held in the peace of God. Let us bring that peace back with us now. If the palms are turned up, go ahead and turn them down. And inhale, drawing the shoulders up by the ears. As we open the front of the chest, the shoulder blades draw back and down. Inhale, drawing the shoulders again up by the ears, nice elongated spine. Exhale, releasing the shoulder blades back and down. One more time. Inhale, full breath. Exhale, releasing the shoulder blades nice and gently back and down. Bring the palms together at heart center. And nice and gentle, if you are able, bow the chin towards the fingertips. And again, you notice an opening along the base of the spine, all the way up the neck, crown of the head. And from this place of peace and centeredness, allow the eyelids to open. Inhale, raise the chin, raise the gaze. Exhale, release the breath. Maintain the peace. Namaste.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
So grateful to begin a new month with a new meditation. Tomorrow at 12 noon, every Monday at 12 noon, it's Meditation Mondays, and so you can tap back into this meditation. It will be streaming and available. And of course, you can always go to the Meditation Experience playlist, which is available on the main page of our YouTube channel, and tap into the meditations from this year, going back to January to now, and keep that vibration going and support you in doing something that's very, very necessary to your spiritual empowerment and your spiritual growth, to tap into meditation daily. And that's why we make that available to you, so that's not just a Sunday thing. Well, of course, we are in Truth Sunday mode. We are studying It's Up to You by Ernest Holmes. If you're just joining us for the very first time, I encourage you to go back. Go back to week 1 and start there with chapter 1, because of course we're building, and we're at chapter 5 now, and we're going to continue to just move forward. As always, I'll remind you now and say this later, that as you complete your homework assignment, as questions come up related to the reading, please send those questions to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org. You'll see that on the screen. You've already probably noticed it, and you'll see it throughout the class. We will incorporate those questions into next week's class. So we enjoy answering those questions, and it deepens everyone's understanding. One of the things I think that's interesting is that given the questions we've already received, I think, as I said last week, last week's chapter, Who Are You? And now this chapter, The Real You, is going to even deepen much of what we answered in those questions, because it is really having a pure understanding and knowing of who you are. Mm-hmm. That then is the foundation from which you operate. Right? And so you have to really know that in order to move forward. So when Holmes says it's up to you, you got to know who the you is that we talk about. It's not up to you, the limited self, the self that is doubtful. It's not up to you, that self that feels that you've made mistakes that you can't come back from. It's not up to you, the you that thinks you're too old or too young or don't have something that you need. Not that you. Right? And so that's what we're tapping into when we move into this chapter today, the real you. Also, I will, particularly with this chapter, I'm going to have to do a lot of mental gymnastics of shifting out of the masculine focus language and to make it more inclusive. So as you're reading along, you'll hear and you'll see that I'll continue to use more inclusive language where Holmes does not. Someone has said that half a loaf is better than no bread, and ignorant faith is better than no faith. So perhaps we made some progress when our religious convictions were rooted in the divine, even when we were convinced that divinity was outside of and vastly removed from us. I love that opening line, right? And the reason why I love it is I think that many times, and I was guilty of this a long time ago, early in my spiritual development, to completely speak ill of my spiritual foundation as though everything about that was just wrong, right? And just trying to cut myself off because I had this new information and this new awareness. And I think that spiritual maturity brings us to a place of recognizing that half a loaf is better than no bread. Right? And so there was something there, right? That half a loaf supported you, right? Ignorant faith is even better than no faith, right? And so perhaps we made some progress when our religious convictions, even when they were rooted in thinking about a God outside of us, it actually did support us in having and experiencing some good. And so we do not speak ill of that, right? We know that was the stepping stone that brought us to where we are now. Right, you wouldn't be where you are now without the previous stepping stones, even that which you no longer practice, right? Even that which you no longer accept. For the first time in the history of human thought, we are coming to the place where intelligent people are setting about to rediscover humankind. People are becoming afraid of what the intellect, uncontrolled by spiritual ideals, may do to the human race. Many modern scientific persons are endeavoring with great earnestness to find something that gives value to life other than the mere uncovering of mechanical force and energy. Too much knowledge with too little wisdom is dangerous. If a person is seeking God and they happen to have the ability to think straight through, they will arrive at the inevitable conclusion that the discovery of God will have to come through the discovery of themselves. Take a breath. This may be counter to a lot of the religious thought and programming that you received previously. But the truth is, and one thing I always say is, like, if you want to understand the nature of God, look at what God has created, right? This wisdom is what supports and undergirds the spiritual principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. And so that means that if you understand and discover the truth of yourself, you inevitably come to understand and know the truth of God, because you are one with God and you are created in the image and likeness of God. According to the text in Genesis, let us make humankind in our likeness and image. This calls for an absolute unity between God and humanity. Not a unity someday to be attained, but one that exists now, that existed before we found it out, and would have existed just the same if we had never made the discovery. Whew, that's deep. Thus, we realize that humanity is immortal now, whether we know it or not. If this were not true, there is nothing we could do to achieve immortality. As humankind mentally retraces our steps to the source of our being, God, there gradually awakens in us in our consciousness a concept of ourselves which is transcendent of the objective form. As I was just saying, meditation is necessary, right? And this could become something that then just becomes a rule. You must meditate, right? That's not what we're saying. The reason why meditation is necessary is for this very thing, because meditation is what supports us in developing and awakening our consciousness to the concept of ourselves, which is transcendent, beyond the objective form. In other words, beyond this physical thing that you call you. That ain't just you. That's like the smallest part of you. And so it's incredibly important that we come to that understanding, because when we have that understanding of who and what we are, then we have great power. As the descendants of enslaved Africans, this is very important, right? Let's think about the ways in which this evil system of enslavement was designed to support those that were enslaved in thinking that they weren't human. Right? And they did everything possible because they knew that if they awakened to the reality that this is not who they are, that these circumstances on this plantation and these shackles and all of the oppressive things that were taking place on those plantations, that's not the truth of who and what you are. What's going to happen? And what did happen? Revolt, revolution, right? Inevitably. And so it's similar in that way, that once we come into an awareness of who and what we are, we're not going to accept lack and limitation. We're not going to accept doubt and fear. We're not going to accept this idea of being unworthy or less than, or we can't have, or abundance is only for certain people and money is for those. We're not going to accept that anymore. And that's the good news. Every individual who lives finds that the great within of themselves is immersed in God and is God, even though the mental makeup of themselves is largely the result of their experience.
So basically, he's saying that the mental makeup, that personality, is based on the things that they've experienced. So it's not denying the things that we've experienced. Those things contribute to the personality. But it is saying that you are more than those things. So we're not pretending.
Right.
That there aren't destructive things in the world, that we haven't had unwanted experiences. We're saying that there is more to us than those.
Right. Our physical makeup is merely an image cast as a reflection into the mirror of our experience. Humanity walks back and forth, enslaved by the shadows of the walls he has cast upon themselves, or we have cast between ourselves and reality, capital R. And this sentence, what he's referring back to is Plato's allegory of the cave. If you want to understand this metaphor, you can go to a sermon series, I Can See Clearly Now. I taught that whole allegory, broke it all down, and expanded it. It'll change your life. I Can See Clearly Now. You can go to the playlist. But that's what he's talking about. In Plato's allegory of the cave, Plato writes about this idea of being shackled and facing the wall. And there's a light behind you, and as the people and things are moving past the light, it's casting shadows. And because that's your only vantage point, you begin to think that those shadows are reality. But it's not. And there's more going on. First of all, you're shackled, right? There's stuff to your left and to your right, and there's things behind you. But not only that, you're in a cave. And life and light is outside of the cave. And so until we come into an awareness of who and what we are, we're like a person that is enslaved to the shadows of the wall that are being cast between ourselves and reality. The shackles are phantoms. They are not real, and the truth alone has the power to strike them from us. It is upon the belief that humanity is an incarnation of God, and because he is, his life is endless. And because we are, our life is endless. That the whole structure of Christianity is built. This was interesting. As I read this, I was like, Ernest Holmes, you something else, brother. Because if you hear that again, and let me read it again, because this is not what most of us would think Christianity is built upon. It is upon the belief that humanity is an incarnation of God, and because we are, our life is endless, that the whole structure of Christianity is built.
Yeah, I don't know if that was my experience growing up, but I accept it now.
Right. And see, here's what's important, because what he's saying here, what most people think is, it is upon the belief that Jesus is an incarnation of God, and because he is, and his life is endless, the whole structure of Christianity is built. But what's clear is that Jesus was saying, that which I am, you are. And so it really is true that the teachings of Jesus are actually built upon this reality that each and every one of us are an incarnation of God, and our life is endless. This is why when we celebrate the resurrection, we're celebrating our own resurrection. And he goes on, and it is upon the same structure that every other great religion the world has ever known has been built. Lord have mercy. It is upon this inspiration that the greatest poems have been penned. And it is upon this cornerstone that our greatest art has been given to the world. Why? Because, and we talked about this in the Tell Me About Your God series, the idea that beauty and art, all of that is a manifestation of God expressed on the planet. Wherever we see beauty, the reading today was beautiful, right? Wherever we see that, wherever we can identify that, what we're identifying is the presence and power of God, and expression and demonstration of God in us and in all things. We have been so afraid of mentioning the word God, so superstitious about everything concerning the deity, that the thought of ourselves as divine has been foreign to the general conception. But we have to face facts. We must be honest in our investigation if we are to get anywhere. And if there is anything that we need to know, it is this, that the eternal is incarnated in each one of us. I'll say it again. The eternal is incarnated in each one of us, that God itself goes forth anew into creation through each one of us. And in such degree as we speak the truth, the Almighty has spoken. Woo, Lord have mercy. Once we gain this heavenly vision of our divine kinship, we should claim our divinity, demonstrate it every day of our life, and refuse to make the slightest concession to appearances. What does that mean? So if your bank account balance doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like, you got to come back to your reminder and say, wait a minute, I know who and what I am. I know that I am the eternal incarnated. And so I'm no longer going to make a concession to this thing that I see, this bank account balance, as though that says something about me, and as though it says that this is final. Right? That bank account's balance is temporary, right? Just like spring is temporary, just like summer is temporary, just like winter is temporary. And so I know that this thing can and will change. And because I know who and what I am, I know that I can attract and acquire more to raise that bank account balance with ease and with effortlessness.
So the eternal is incarnated in each of us. The eternal unlimited flow of good is incarnated in each of us. That is the only way, if the good is being expressed in art, in music, in whatever way, the eternal is being expressed. It is incarnated. It's never ending. And so if I'm feeling any lack or limitation in my good, then I've disconnected myself, disassociated myself from the eternal.
Right.
And that's where the fear comes in. That's when you start go do stuff to make the balance different, to make the situation different, to make the relationship be there that ain't there. You start doing things when you get disconnected from the eternality of your being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The old idea that the substance out of which our bodies are made is any different from any other substance is an antiquated theory. We now deal with the universe on the basis of an absolute, fundamental, universal unity. The answer of modern science relative to what we have miscalled a material universe is that the universe is one. And this is interesting because I think particularly when we consider the time that Ernest Holmes was alive versus now, right? And so there is this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful unity between science and spirituality in our lifetimes that did not exist even in Ernest Holmes' lifetime. And I was rewatching a portion of The Power of Myth, a conversation between Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers. It was in the 1980s, and they were talking about that idea of the Gaia principle and the idea of the union and unity. Joseph Campbell talks a lot about how our consciousness changed humanity once we had an image of the earth, right? This idea of there's one there's one planet, one people, right? That we are all earthlings. Of course, that gave birth to Earth Day and all these other things. But this is actually a scientific truth down to our DNA, right? I'm thinking about Reverend Shauna right now, and in her prayers, she would often affirm this, right? That we are 99.9999999% alike. The things that make us different, the difference between you and a frog, between you and a fish, between you and a tree, it's infinitesimal from the perspective of DNA. And so this is not just a spiritual idea. The spiritual truth is represented in the physical. Right, that we are made. That he says the old idea that of which our bodies are made of any different from any other substance is antiquated. We are all made of the same stuff, the same God stuff. Science is a unifying matter. Psychology is tending to unify mind, and we announce in spirituality that spirit is one. We think of all mind as one mind and all spirit as one spirit. There is no world external to consciousness, and we shall never know any God greater than the God our inner consciousness proclaims. This takes, again, back to Tell Me About Your God series. And it's God is consciousness. It's one of the 7 main aspects of God. And I specifically went to quantum physics. I went to quantum theory. I took the words of scientists that sound like great mystics, because it's the same truth. Look into your own mind and determine whether this is so. This has to be the ultimate criterion, because the universe is to you and to me what we are to it, and can never be anything else.
So yes, the question becomes, what is the universe? Is it kind? Is it chaotic? Is it unloving? Is it judgmental? That whatever you hold in your consciousness, it becomes for you.
This is why we have to be mindful how we speak about the world or about life, right? Because it can only become to us what we are to it, right? It is done unto us as we believe. And so while the human experience has some things, right? Sometimes I'll talk about human experience can have its ups and downs, but life is constant. See the difference? Right? Or even as we talk about the world is this temporary existence, right? Of our human experience, but it's not life itself, right? And I must always, understanding that God is life itself, I must always speak about life from that eternal, ever-existing, ever-flowing, never running out, loving, peaceful, harmonious perspective. But human experience, yeah, we have ups and downs and all kind of foolishness in the human experience. Even the world is, if we talk about the world and understanding this limit that we're talking about, the limited this existence in this three-dimensional perspective of life, of our human experience. Sure. But it's very important that we understand that, right? The universe is to you and to me what we are to it. Can never be more.
Right. So if you're waiting for the universe to be more to you than you are to yourself, or you believe is capable for you to have or to be or to do, it's not going to do it. But what you can do is become more conscious about how you view the world, how you view the universe, how you see the relationship between you and it. Because many times we say the world acts this way, and how can we speak for the entire world?
Right.
We're speaking from our perspective about the world, our beliefs about it, our consciousness, and how it operates in relationship to the world and others in it.
And that takes us back to one of the questions we had a few weeks ago, that idea of, Chicago is just this way, right? These things that we do. And that's still across the entire expanse of the experience of a city. Everyone is not having that same experience. Right.
And so what do you choose to have?
There
What
you go.
experiences do you choose to have?
Yeah.
It really comes back to the title. It's up to you. And nobody's going to give it to you because if they gave it to you, they could take it from you.
There you go. Whatever this life principle is that animates us, we did not make it. When we speak of God as causation or reality, capital R reality, we are not trying to introduce a new fashion. We are referring to a principle resident within us, which we did not put there.
Thank God.
No experience we have ever had put it there, and certainly all of our experiences merely tend to awaken us to the conclusion that it is there and teaches us how to use it. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful, just succinct way to think about what it is that we're doing and what New Thought is really all about, right? That we understand, that we learn to interpret our experiences. As we talk about sometimes the still small voice, that life is simply trying to get our attention to experience and express the truth of who and what we are, right? Certainly all of our experiences tend to awaken us, right? That's all. Say, hey, tap, tap. You have power. Tap, tap, tap. You have power. Hey, you have great power, right? That's all really any of our experiences are doing. I love to refer to Mama Ayanla's Van Zant's acronym for PAIN. Pay attention inward now. Right? The experiences of life are simply trying to get us to do that, to look within, to come to this conclusion that there's this thing within us that we did not put there. And then once we come to that conclusion, then we simply learn how to use it. I have this analogy that's been running in my head over the past couple of weeks, thinking about this idea of how to use it, right? I could tell you, or you could have been exposed to ice. You know, you may just somehow ice just always showed up, and you had ice, you knew this thing ice existed. And then if somebody tells you, oh, you know, you can make your own ice, like what? Well,
I thought I had to buy it.
yeah, all I ever did was go to the store and buy it. What do you mean I can make it? Now, saying that alone would still leave you not knowing how to use it, because you would have to have a freezer. You would have to have electricity. You would have to have water. You would have to have ice trays or some vessel to put. Like, there's all of these things that you would have to do, and you would have to create the conditions. You couldn't just plug in your freezer for a couple minutes, then unplug it, right? You know, everything wouldn't stay frozen, right? So there's so many things, and when we think about that, we would learn how to use it. But what's beautiful is none of us created the principle that turns water to ice. And it doesn't matter who we are, where we are, how old or young we are, where we live on the planet, we can all make use of that principle. That's all we're doing. That's really all we're doing. Is learning how to use something that's eternally available to all of us, that works for us equally. No respecter of persons, plays no favorites, works with mechanical accuracy. It's a beautiful thing. Does God know me? Sooner or later, we all ask that question. Either there is no power, no intelligence, nothing in the universe that knows me or cares what happens to me, or else there is such a power omnipresent. It is the all of you, the all of me. But does it know me? Does it know you? Does it know itself? These are deep questions. In the long run, each must answer them for ourselves. I believe that infinite intelligence does know us, but I do not believe that it knows us apart from itself.
That's
deep,
powerful.
Deep.
Read that again.
Yeah. These are deep questions. In the long run, each must answer them for themselves. Does God, and the question is, does God know me? Does it know you? Does it know itself? I believe that infinite intelligence does know us, but I do not believe that it knows us apart from itself. Now, immediately, why this is impactful, it goes to the fundamental misinformation and disinformation that we have been given about God and ourselves and our relationship to God. Even those that at best feel that they have a personal relationship with God and teach this idea of, oh, God loves me, and oh, I don't know, I've made so many mistakes, but you still love me, right? And people really find that wonderful, right? And on a certain level, it is, right? To have that understand that sense of like a loving God and a personal relationship, and yeah, I make mistakes, but God still blesses me, and I can ask for forgiveness, and God still forgives me, right? But that's knowing God apart from itself. That's a relationship where you're separate from this thing. That's a relationship where this thing is up in the sky and benevolent and approving and disapproving of you, right? And can actually take itself from you completely, right? Like, there's certain things you can do that God's just like, nah, I can't mess with you no more.
That's it.
But if you're one with it, it can never know you apart from itself, which is really the basis of the love of God. Oh, Lord have mercy, that felt good. That's really the basis of the love of God. Your oneness with it. See, we practice this and talk about it even in a human form, right? That we think about relationships as two becoming one, right? And you form a third entity, which is the relationship, which two people are then feeding into. But this is truly the basis of love and the love of God: union, unity, harmony, connection. And so God, or life itself, and infinite intelligence, does know us, but it does not know us apart from itself. I think we are part of its self-knowingness. Therefore, I believe that our self-knowingness, what we know about ourselves that is really true, is the present level of our evolution, our present consciousness of God. Y'all heard me say it, the sum total of what you believe is your God. And this is what's really interesting if we start to think about, because God is just a word, it's a placeholder, right? Everybody technically has a different God. Even within a certain religion or within a certain spiritual tradition, everybody has a different God. Why? Because your God is your present awareness, your present consciousness, your present acceptance and allowing of the all.
And I love that present consciousness.
Yes.
Because that implies that it can change, it can evolve, it can grow, it can expand. So we don't judge your present consciousness. We give it room to grow. We give you room to experience a new transcendent God, a bigger God, a more powerful God, a more love. Whatever it is that you need your consciousness to expand to, it can become.
Right, right. And as this is true at the individual level, it is true at the community, at the national, at the international, governmental levels. And as you start to understand this in your own individual lives, then you can parse through and see what's going on in the world without getting sucked into what's going on in the world, without being judgmental, and also then being able to hear and allow what is yours to do in context. Because you recognize that the truth is that the present level of evolution for humanity and for nations is their present consciousness of God. And unfortunately, on the national and international level, I don't even know if they're allowing a crack of God in. You know what I'm saying? When you consider if it was a dark room and all you needed to do was open up a door for light to come in and it would change the experience, maybe the door is cracked, right? In that sense of how much of the consciousness of God is coming through. And again, when we talk about God, we're not talking about the Judeo-Christian God or Islamic God or any other spiritual tradition's idea of a deity. We're talking about union, unity, harmony, life itself, consciousness itself. And so because there's that continuous sense of separation that humanity has continued to believe, that's what is, of course, continuing. And when separation, I'm talking about separation from God itself, right? Which then is what's playing out as the separation between all of us and creates, man's inhumanity to man, right? And creates a genocide and all of these ugly things that are happening on our planet.
I believe that our present level of consciousness of God is being required to evolve individually and collectively, because the things that we are continually doing individually and collectively require a new understanding, a new elevation, a new level and willingness and love and connection that we've never experienced before. That's why the things that are happening are so, I don't know, just egregious.
Yeah.
We can't even look at them because it's time to evolve past them.
Yeah.
It's time to develop a new consciousness of our connection, of the truth of ourselves. If you are disheartened, it's time to evolve.
Yeah. And we can always start with ourselves, right? That's, again, the idea of it's up to you. The only place that we truly have full power and control is within our own lives, right? And then as each of us endeavors to do that, then we create a planet and a world that works for everyone. And when I say everyone, I'm not talking about every human. Every being, every tree, every fish, every molecule that makes up our oceans and rivers and seas. In saying this, I hasten to explain that I do not think I am God. There's a vast difference between saying I am God and saying God is what I am. Ice is water. All ice is some water, but not all water is ice. So we might say about the life of humanity, all of the life of humanity is some of the life of God. Some of the life of God is all of the life of humanity. But humanity is not all of the life of God. And this is, of course, then why we know that we have the opportunity to express more of God on the individual and collective level. Certainly, we would not pick out any John Jones and say to him, "You are God." But reason does compel us to say to a John Jones, "God is in you. There is no you outside of God." This is where, again, these spiritual axioms that we say over and over again, in God we live, move, and have our being. And then what do I also say? And then God has its moves, lives, and expresses through us. God is you. There is no you outside of God.
That's a beautiful affirmation that we could be saying to ourselves regularly. Use it for mirror work. God is in me. There is no me outside of God. And let that me that God is within me act. Let it tell me what to do. Let it move through me. Let it connect. Let it create. Let it financially become whatever. Right? Let it do it.
If God is a divine presence, omnipresent, then it follows that God is present where I am, or there could be no where I am, or else the where I appear to be is a hole, H-O-L-E, in the universe. Therefore, if I am, God is that which I am, though of course, infinitely more. This is not a question of opinion. It is not so because we think it is so. It is so because it is so. This is important. Right? In the same way that I talked about the idea of the process that moves ice to water, that's not subject to opinion. That just is.
Right. You either access it, use it, or not.
Right. And you can use it. You can fumble your way through it. You can use it intelligently and with great skill, or not. Right? It is so because it is so. We should not argue as to whether or not we are divine, but instead gratefully express our divinity from this moment on. Remembering the words of Jesus, "At the day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, at that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you." Again, he's taking us back to that statement that he made about what Christianity is truly built upon, and what the teachings of Jesus are truly built upon. At the moment you accept that reality and realizing that it is so, at that day, you shall know the truth that you are in God and God is in you.
So the question becomes, when do we decide to allow this to be the reality of our lives and then operate from it? You know, this chapter can be very esoteric. And this book has that ability to be very esoteric. And that's part of the reason why we chose it, because a lot of people have read it, but they haven't lived it. And so it's important to step back and see, how do you apply this to your life, the situations? Is God in you or not? And are you in God? Is it, there's this relationship, is it operating?
Right.
If in the moment that you are in fear, doubt, and worry, it is not operating for you, it doesn't mean it's not operating.
Right.
And in the moment that you become aware that you're in fear, doubt, worry, unworthiness, whatever the thing is the very moment you can turn your awareness within. God is in me. Period. I let it speak. I let it move. I let it do its divine work. I let its wisdom be my wisdom now. You can create all kinds of affirmations and then apply it to the situation. These become prayers.
There is an infinite intelligence which gives birth to our minds. And if our minds are in league with it, then we arrive at the reason for the power of thought. Does it not follow that the creative power of thought does not repose in the human will, but in the divine presence? Repose, that simply means rest or rely or live within, right? It's a beautiful thing. Does it not follow that this creative power of thought, that thought becomes things, right? We understand that. That's not based on our human will.
Thank God.
Right. Right? Or even human intellect.
Thank
Right?
God.
It has nothing to do with how smart you are. Right? Thought becomes things, no matter what. Right? This is why children tend to demonstrate and manifest easily and effortlessly before they even realize all of the other limiting stuff that we put on top of it. Because it's not based on human will. It's just a fact of life, right? It rests in the divine presence. And should we not have an entirely different conception of spiritual healing if we knew that it had nothing to do with mental suggestion, but with the silent recognition of the spirit already resident and inherent in the individual for whom we are working? You and I, by taking thought, do not do anything other than line ourselves up with that which is the father of thought, or the cause of thought, the origin of thought. But could it be other than the highest God and the innermost God is one God? When we seek to heal spiritually, we are seeking to release the spiritual principle inherent within the individual needing healing, or needing more money, or needing some sort of support or assistance.
Or answers.
Yes. When we pray, it's not mental suggestion. This is important. And particularly, but this is just a little New Thought history here. This is important because when we consider the origins of New Thought, and I'm thinking about Mesmer, who used to have his magnets, and he was able to heal people, he thought, because of these magnets that he was using. And of course, mesmer, we get the word mesmerize because of that he was able to support people in moving into a certain type of mental space. One day he forgot his magnets, but he needed to go do some healing work, right? And it was at that point he still was able to heal. And it's that point that he understood something powerful about what was going on, right? He understood that it wasn't about the magnets. And so then the understanding, we thought that it was about mental suggestion, right? It was about somebody having the ability to say the right thing to then trigger someone. But if we remember in the teachings of Jesus and the stories that we have, when those who needed healing came to him, the two blind men, he asked, do you believe that you can be made whole? You have the woman with the issue of blood. She believed that she could be made whole, so much so that if she just touched the tip, the hem of his garment, she believed that she would be healed of something that she had spent all of this money and all of these doctors couldn't support her, right? That was about her own belief. And so what we understand that it's not about, when we speak the words of healing, it's not about Pastor Greg or Pastor Yolanda's power of suggestion, but it's simply what we are doing is supporting you in lining up with the divine power that already dwells within you. And what we are seeking to do, as he said, is to release the spiritual principle inherent within you to then bring about the healing, to then bring about the answer, to bring about the wanted outcome.
Right. We're treating our mind to release its hidden splendor.
Right. Right. And that's why prayer is not talking to God.
Or
Or
begging
asking
God.
God or begging God. That's why. There is one ultimate thinker, yet this thinker thinks through all of us. That is why our thought is creative. You may not have heard that before, particularly in the world that we live in, that, present understanding is very much rooted in the success of The Secret, and we're happy about that, and that's wonderful. But unfortunately, sometimes it's taught like this thing that you have to believe. Oh, yeah, do you believe in manifestation? Oh, I believe in manifestation, right? Manifestation. That's like me saying I believe in making ice. Like, it's like that. The process, again, it's a natural, normal process that none of us created, that just is, right? And it's always happening. And so the reason why our thought is creative is because there is ultimately one thinker. We are making use of the mind of God in us. Mm-hmm. It is the power and presence, the creative power and presence of God that creates, that attracts, that demonstrates, that manifests. It is not us. And that's it. What did Jesus say? It is not I, but the Father within me and through me that does the work. And so people get tripped up. You all caught up in thoughts create my reality, and thoughts create things, and I manifested that, and I believe in manifestation, but they don't understand that there's one ultimate thinker that is thinking through all of us, and that is why our thought is creative, and that alone. So that is why we think at all. The universal mind is incarnated in everyone. Every person has access to it. Every person uses it. See that? It ain't about belief. As we talked about earlier, yes, we are awakened so that we can learn how to use it intelligently. Absolutely. But we're all using it always, either in ignorance or in conscious knowledge. In other words, the mind of each one of us is the mind of God. Each one of us is the mind of God functioning at the level of our perception of life. There's that same
Current
term again. We got to say that. Because that's all that's happening. And again, when we talk about level, we're not talking about it in the sense of competition. I'm on level 6, you on level 1. No.
Yeah, you see that a lot. It's so interesting, especially in New Thought, people talking about their level of consciousness, that they've evolved to this, and this.
Right. No. Your perception of life. This is why I love to think about, PY and I both use this analogy all the time, of like the idea if God is like the ocean, let's say, right? You can bring a thimble and you can fill the thimble up with the ocean, right? You could bring a bucket, you could bring 100 buckets, you could bring a boat, right? And each one of these is going to hold a different amount of water. Right? And it doesn't mean that you're special or there's something wrong with you because you have a thimble versus a bucket versus some other thing. But this is what the idea of our level of perception of life. And so really it's even our level of acceptance of life, our level of permission of life to express and flow in, through, and as us, which is why we must always be consciously aware of what are we permitting, what are we allowing, what are we accepting, because that's really what determines the flow, that determines the outcome and what really happens in our lives. Consciously using it, capital I it, we bring into our experience today something we did not appear to have yesterday: a better environment, a happier circumstance, more friendship, more joy. These manifestations are of the nature of reality, capital R.
Right. Life is supposed to be abundant. There's supposed to be joy and peace, all of those things. How much are you allowing yourself, permitting yourself to have?
Yeah.
Or share or express.
Right. And this idea that these manifestations are the nature of reality means it's natural and normal. So that's the other thing. People are trying to manifest different circumstances that seem to be outside of what is natural for you. No, all we're ever really doing is, as we tap into and continue to expand our perception of life, continue to accept, permit, and allow more of life, that which is natural and normal from the capital R reality, from the mind of God, simply expresses and demonstrates as our life. This is why you get to a certain point where writing a bunch of stuff down is manipulation. If you would just simply permit and allow and accept and deepen your awareness of that, all of a sudden you'll find that your finances change. All of a sudden you'll find that your relationship change. All of a sudden you'll find that your career expands, your business expands, because you're just tapping into and allowing the natural, normal flow of God life in, through, and as your life. Mm-hmm. Is there any danger in teaching a person the truth about themselves? I think not. For when I know that the God in you is the God that is in me, the only reality there is between us, in such degree as I know, it cannot seek to do you ill. It would be unthinkable, because I would know that all I could do would be to hurt myself. Mm. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, this takes us to what we were talking about, particularly when we think about the global conflicts and things that are happening on this planet right now. It's rooted in separation. First, a sense of separation from the all in all. Right? There's a Persian myth that talks about the idea that that's what hell is. Hell is separation from God, separation from the beloved. That's why our experience in this human experience of life feels like hell. Right, but it's also true that we have the ability to experience heaven here on planet Earth. But that requires union. That requires us to come back into the realization that we are one with God. And once we know that we are one with God, and that can't just be true of me, it is true of all things, then anything that I do to myself, I would ultimately, to someone else, I would ultimately be hurting myself.
And we see that every day. We see that with the climate crisis. Mm-hmm. How is it that there's one planet, yet we think we can operate in this way over here and it not impact other parts of the world?
Right.
We're seeing that in the Caribbean right now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They produce the least amount of things that would impact the planet, but they are the ones that are actually suffering right now from our belief that we're separate.
Right.
That we can do whatever we want over here and no one else is impacted. It's an example that's right there glaring at us in our faces.
Absolutely. The only danger to any person lies in a too rapid intellectual progress without a balance of the spiritual qualities which alone can synthesize. This is very important, because this is, again, what we're seeing in our modern world, right? Modern technology, rapid intellectual, technological progress. This also takes me back to the words of Dr. King. But what's interesting when we think about the technology and all that we have, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, but it's not balanced with the spiritual qualities, which alone can synthesize. It's not balanced by love. It's not balanced by wisdom. It's not balanced by a sense of union and harmony with all life. And so we have to think about the things that we do. How will that impact the bees? We have to think about the things that we do. How does that impact the sharks? Right? We have to think about the things we do. How does that impact the turtles? And this is real, because the things that they're doing impact and support the environment. And so we need us to all work together in symbiosis. But again, unfortunately, what has happened, the other thing, we're seeing it with technology right now, whether we want to talk about social media or whether we're going to talk about AI, which I'm not anti-AI. I think it's wonderful and beneficial, and there's wonderful things we can do. But the problem is, and has continued to be with technology, and there's a few that have been warning about this for decades, is that you can't put all of this technology out there without also thinking about the potential impacts and putting safeguards in place and education in place, so that we make good use of the good and ensure that we're not negatively impacting generations and just negatively impacting ourselves. And so that's what he's talking about, this idea. The only danger lies in too rapid intellectual progress without the balance of spiritual qualities. You can go to the Bible and read what are the fruits of the Spirit, And you can see that the fruits of the Spirit are nowhere in our constitutions, right? The fruits of the Spirit, we just celebrated the 4th of July or whatever. We had the 4th of July, right? And, the fruits of the Spirit aren't present in the Declaration of Independence.
It's so interesting. We use the word, the placeholder for God, but we're not operating from
Exactly,
God.
right. When all the nations of the world shall see God incarnated in each other, then we shall no longer have use for weapons. But it is going to be hard for us to get spiritual realization while we believe that perhaps we are holier than other people.
Well, it's going to be hard if we keep ourselves separate and thinking we're industrialized, we're smarter, all those things. It's going to be hard when we keep ourselves separate.
When we have this idea here in the United States, we've been indoctrinated in so many ways in the United States. I find myself still in this time in my life, becoming aware of all of the things that, we watched as children, movies that we watched that put us into this, gave us this false idea of American exceptionalism. That there's a phrase that absolutely gets on my nerves now, this idea that the president of the United States is the leader of the free world. How can one president of one, technically small space on the planet Earth be the quote unquote leader of the free world, right? But even democratically, well, the rest of the world didn't vote for whoever is in office, right? And that's that idea of perhaps, that the United States is better than other people, right? And so then, of course, the United States operates in this fake posture of benevolence, right? This fake posture of taking democracy around the world and all this kind of mess. And then when something happens to America, they hate democracy, right? When we get rid of all of that stuff, right? When we get rid of all of that stuff and come to the spiritual realization, then we will know true peace. If we insist on believing that God is somewhere apart from us or somewhere apart from us or somewhere apart from the person or situation for which we spiritually treat meaning pray for, then how are we going to know whether God is going to come down and incarnate? But if, on the other hand, we are certain that God is incarnated, it is merely a matter of God in us greeting God in the other person. It is a salutation of the divine to itself. That is exactly what self-realization is. The pronouncement of spirit itself, the self-announcement of reality through us. I'm reminded of, we talk about this at Celebration Spiritual Center. This is something that we would tell our volunteers over and over again in training, right? To understand that when you meet someone for the first time, treat it as God meeting God.
Absolutely.
The divine meeting the divine, right? It is
whether they know it or not.
Exactly. God in us, as us, is that which we are. The more careful the analysis, the more complete the conclusion has to be that this is so. If this be true, and our mind does partake of the universal wholeness and is creative, then we are bound by our own liberty, and bondage is an expression of freedom, humanity's freedom under the infinite law of all life. Ooh, this is a tough one. We are bound by our own liberty, and bondage is an expression of freedom. In other words, we're so free
that we can choose bondage.
Now, that bondage initially may be unknowingly, unconscious, right? And again, this is why life is continuing to tap us on the shoulder. It's why life is continuing to awaken us to look within. Right? This is why the circumstances of our lives are always, the challenges of our lives are always an opportunity, a conversation to look within. But the truth is, and again, this takes us back to some of the questions from the previous week, because we're thinking about the idea of free will and human will and all of these things. We are bound by our own liberty, which means we're unbounded, right? In truth, right? We're so free that we can put ourselves in jail in consciousness. But our freedom is under the infinite law of all life. We must not be disturbed by the contradiction of objective experience, right? This is important. Again, takes us back to those questions from the previous weeks, right? We must not be disturbed. Yes, we see the contradiction of what's happening in the human experience, what's happening in I said earlier, this 3D world, right? We learn not to be disturbed, right? This is, again, if we look in the Bible, we look at the words that are in the mouth of Jesus, right? We're taught to judge not by appearances. Mm-hmm. That's what that statement was about. More than you may have learned in Sunday school, like, don't judge, right? Oh, Jesus said don't judge. But we're going down the layers, right, of metaphysical truth, and understand that judge not by appearances means that whatever's showing up on the surface of your life right now does not have the final say. And it definitely doesn't say something about you. It may say something about your current thinking, right? It may say something about what you have accepted or allowed consciously or unconsciously, but it doesn't say anything about you. Mm-hmm. And we must learn not to be disturbed by the contradiction of objective experience, right? We see things out in our lives and you want to say, but this is happening in my life, but I'm seeing this, when we learn not to be disturbed, that's when we learn that we can change and transform those things.
And it doesn't say ignore.
Right.
This is important.
Very, very
because
important.
a lot of spiritual circles, I just don't even see that. Mm-hmm. I don't see color. I don't see all these things. And I'm like, but you have eyes to see. Uh-huh. And you let the nature that is God within you show you how to operate in what you see. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're not disturbed by it. You don't give up because of it. Mm-hmm. But you also realize that there's something else operating. Mm-hmm. And this situation doesn't have the final say in my life.
There you go.
This bank account, this relationship, this whatever it is that is unwanted does not have the final say. Mm-hmm.
And that's why you don't get disturbed.
And that's why you don't get disturbed, but you do ask.
Oh, yeah.
Show me. Mm-hmm. Show me what is mine to do, how I am to move from reality, not conditions.
Right. Infinite intelligence within me, show me.
Perfect affirmation.
Yeah. We shall have to know that the truth we announce is superior to the condition which it is to change.
The truth we announce.
Right. See,
we affirm, we
right.
speak.
That's all we're ever doing. That's what I know. The truth that I announce is superior to the condition because the condition is changeable. Mm-hmm. The condition obeys. Again, we're talking about Jesus, right? The winds and the waves obey, right? That's what it is, right? We shall have to see that God in us recognizes God in the other person until the God in the other person recognizes God in us. This cannot be done by the human will. It is only when we recognize the pure essence of the spiritual principle inherent and incarnate in each one of us that we find that the thought arising from the atmosphere of spiritual realization has no adversary. That's why there ain't no Satan. Satan literally means adversary. And so as long as you think that there's something against you, as long as you think there's an adversary, whatever that adversary might be, it's the bank, the adversary is these other people, the powers that be, just them or they, right?
The adversary is my body. Like when you are in conflict.
Right. And that's why humans have created the character of Satan, right? To anthropomorphize an experience, an adversarial experience.
But when you do that, you lose control and you no longer are the seat of the power to do anything about it.
There you go.
Again, we're not saying things don't happen.
Right.
But where is the power to change it if it's not in you? Because if you're waiting on somebody else to do it, their focus might not even be on you.
Right. No adversary. If God be in us, who or what can be against us? Florence Scovel Shinn writes about in The Game of Life and How to Play It, walk up to the lion and the lion disappears. But see, that walking up is the akin to when he talks about announcing the truth.
Right. It's not saying literally go up to somebody that you are in conflict with and deny their reality. What it's saying is the impact of it on your thinking and experience, you get to change.
Each one of us, in turning to the great inner life, is turning to God. One who penetrates this inner life will find it birthless, deathless, fearless, eternal, happy, perfect, complete. Gradually, there dawns in one's consciousness a sense that God or the infinite is flowing into everything they are doing. When is humanity divine? The Apostle John answered this question, Beloved, now are we the children of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that we shall be like God, for we shall see God as God is. And that statement is not a future statement. That's how that has been interpreted in traditional Christianity, and why folks are out here impoverished and enslaved and fear, doubt, and worry. That statement, for those of you who grew up in traditional Christianity and have heard this statement and read it, and I'm thinking about some good gospel songs that were written based on that scripture, it is not a future statement.
It's
It
not
is
a
a now
heaven
statement.
by and by.
It is a now statement. When you come into that awareness and accept and allow and permit that awareness, expand your level of perception of life, you will know it. You will be like God, for you shall see God as God truly is. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
This chapter is amazing. It's deep. It's rich. It has the possibility to make amazing impact in the way you see yourself in the world. And a great opportunity to go back and read it.
Yes.
We're here to answer your questions about it. Don't gloss over it. Don't think, oh, it's too ethereal. It's too mystical for me to understand. This is the whole point of the Masterclass. It's for you to get the understanding so you can live differently.
Absolutely. So, PY just said it. Your assignment is to read this chapter. Read this chapter on your own, or you can just come. I mean, one way that you can read it is come back here, right? We read through the entire chapter, so you can rewatch this class as well. And as you're reading, if questions come up in the reading, send those questions to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org, and we will do our very best to answer those questions and incorporate it into next week's class. As we prepare to close, of course, it is also time for giving. And we know that it's very easy to give to CSC. Let me put that on the screen so you can see it. It's very easy to give to CSC. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. As you give, you receive. And I've been reading, PY and I both, we've been reading a lot of Catherine Ponder this summer. And I've been reading her book, Open Your Mind to Receive. And one of the things she talks about and writes about in one of the later chapters is about giving. That actually, because as you give, you receive, giving is an important aspect to opening your mind to receive. And there's a couple things that she talks about in that chapter. One is that sporadic giving creates sporadic receiving. Right? And so that the truth of giving is about persistent, and the word she uses is systematic giving. That we must be clear that we're giving on a continual and a regular basis to the extent that we want to continually and regularly receive. Now, here at CSC, we do not teach that it has to be a specific amount. We do not teach that it has to be a specific percentage, because the power in it is in the persistent,